Welcome to Young Lion, Old Lion podcast, where hosts Josh Valera and Tony Darren take you into the world of selling and storytelling. With stories of the hurdles, victories, and current struggles, they'll dive into the instincts and lessons that keep them moving forward, hunting in the jungle of transportation.
Welcome back. I'm Josh Valera.
And I'm Tony Darren.
So, what do we got today?
We've got our show today, and we're going to talk about a couple of things. But I think you and I need to probably touch base on how things are going. We haven't talked about that specifically, and we also want to talk about more of how the week has gone per day. Walk us through. I guess I'm asking you, hey, can you walk us through how this past week has gone for you?
Yeah.
It's been a few days, a few business days. And we've got busy. We're also a person short.
Yep.
So there are some challenges in that. So maybe from your perspective, you can walk us through how this past week has gone.
All right. So we record on Wednesdays. Today is February 1st. So since last Wednesday, I don't think I have any new customers signed.
But some have come to fruition.
Yeah.
Meaning
Yeah.
they've got things for us to move.
Yep. So, I guess summing up, last month is my first, I'll call it my first, definitely the first month of the year. But I think the first full month of actually being kind of on the grind. I moved 13 full truckloads.
Yeah. Let me stop you. So let's walk through it. So you came in November 29th.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Right after the Thanksgiving holiday.
Yep.
And usually that is just a whole slew of holidays, and transportation has always been off. But this December, which was 2 or 3 days after, including the holiday of, going into December, you had a short week when you came in because of the holiday week. What was a full week for you? Then you had the 2 holiday days in December.
You had Christmas and New Year's and some of that. But also, we spent, a week or 2 weeks of training and kind of going over everything.
Yeah, I was going to say that. So 2 weeks were back and forth with trying to get a call volume up to where you're towards today. And it was probably about between 40 and 60 that first week to 2 weeks. We were working on lead lists and getting that acclimated. You were helping
building
to
out
construct the CRM.
Yep.
So we probably really started getting into consistent calls like the second week of December, maybe later first week into the second week of December.
Yeah. So I think second week of December is when I started making calls.
Where that's all you were kind of doing is making calls.
Yeah. So.
And then December was, there was some people that were in the office. They were having conversations with you. It was setting things up for a January start, but we didn't have any traction with new customers signing up. We had some potential signups, but didn't.
Most of what from the people I was talking to, most of it was, hey, can you call me back in a couple weeks? Because I'm just trying to close out the end of the year. I don't have anything moving, so I'm not going to waste your time, but call me back next year.
Yeah.
And so,
next year. See you next year.
Yeah. Yeah. So
that didn't.
That was pretty much the majority of it, or people were on vacation. I think a large majority of the people I was calling were on vacation. And then if they weren't on vacation, they were in the office and not out at the dock or something like that. So I was actually talking to people.
They had already shipped everything they were going to ship out before the end of the year. There was no last minute shipments to talk through. There was no what ifs or could be's.
But the big thing is I made connections, whether it was with a gatekeeper or with a receptionist.
Mm-hmm.
Not to give too much in my secret tips and tricks, but when I'm making that call and I'm in the CRM at the same time, I'll type down what options I press to get where. Type down what the receptionist's name is if I get that, and kind of all those little pieces that this isn't the only call I'm making. I have 8 more steps in my process.
Yeah.
So at least I know I can speed it up on call 2.
We call that getting commitments on every call because you're gathering information that helps you on the second attempt to break through even further. you gathering names, you can ask.
You
for
put
those
that
people.
into the bucket of getting commitments every call.
Yeah, when you're
getting commitments every call to me is asking for information or asking for a commitment from somebody on the other line.
Yeah.
Like, Deborah, are you sure you're gonna, give my information to Sue?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's, to me, that's asking for that commitment on every call.
That's
not
asking
necessarily,
for it.
yeah.
When you're attaining new levels of contact, whether they be, we're trying to build this, I guess this diagram or this build out of where the main center point of contact is, and then one above them, one below them, and one on either side. So if you have a shipping manager, maybe it's the logistics vice president, and then maybe it's the shipping assistant, and then maybe it's the raw materials or sourcing manager, and maybe it's a recruiter. I don't know, but you're trying to surround yourself with advocates of the main decision maker.
Yeah.
So when you're asking, you're finding out people like the Sue or the Debbies or the whoever's, you're getting a commitment back from them. You're asking for it, but you're getting more knowledge. You're building the accounts information out.
Okay.
So
okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Which is good. Very good.
So that's most of what I was doing in December, was trying to gather that information. I view it like field intelligence. I'm just kind of I'm scoping out, what's available to me next month. How many of these contacts can I clean up? How many good phone numbers do I have? So that the way I have my second phone call set up, I knew that from week 2 or 3 in December, I'm going to be calling them week 1 or 2 in January. So, and that's kind of where that panned out. Because in January, I think week 1, I didn't move anything. Week 2 is probably when I got 1, maybe 2.
Yeah.
And then week 3 and 4 is when I moved the other 12 shipments. So,
So in the month of January, I think that started off way faster than I expected, and December was way slower than I expected.
Yeah.
So I think it balanced itself out. It's positioning ourselves in February to say, we made some strides today. There's a few, could have been 3 loads. I think we got 2 loads moved from newer customers today. First day of the month, which is good. So you're starting off on a great clip.
Yep.
We were shorter this month in work days than our typical. So that's going to play into the overall revenues, but it's just going to be building steam is what I'm seeing from our side.
Really what we're 2 days maybe shorter. I mean, it's not yet. 2 days doesn't have the impact because our pool is so small, but
we're still climbing. We're hoping at a greater clip. If we were running on 10 specific customers for so many lanes or committed lanes.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that if we were clipping it like 500 million a month. Right. And we missed out on 2 days.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
True.
Versus if you're clipping at, I don't know, you're making $50 a month.
True.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I was talking about. So
a great January. I mean, as we're closing out, February 1st
for me, for a first full month of doing the full job, no training, other than like learning every day, I think it was a solid first full month.
Mm-hmm. So that's the feedback for me, is that January was great. The momentum is building. It's built to a point. What's happened also, as I mentioned on the last,
I didn't include it, but you're talking about that we had an associate leave.
Yeah. Keith moved on to a different helping his family's business.
Yep.
So we're down another person in carrier sales, but we had one of the best months since I've been here. You've been here.
Yeah, and I mean he was here for half the month, so it
he
definitely helped
help.
on the front side of the month.
True. Very true.
So, but what's nice is Brevin, who I think we are going to try to have on in the next couple weeks. He has absolutely stepped up. Not that he wasn't working hard before, but now he's doing the same job, but of 2 people.
I think he's taken on the additional pressure, and he's doing very well with it.
Yeah, I think he's
busier, but he's not.
Yeah,
he's not stretched or panicked. We're going to be here to helping him a little bit more and more each day until we get another person working with him, which we interviewed a person today. We really liked the person that we met with, and Brevin was part of that interview process. So we'll see how that moves forward. Any so challenges and things that happen over the past day or two. I'm going to go ahead and step on somebody's foot here. Maybe not yours, maybe not mine, but we had a partner that had to push out a delivery.
Okay.
And this is Josh's client, but had to push out a delivery because of a warehouse being shut because of weather in a part of the country. So that falls in line with that force majeure type thing where it's an act of God. We can't really control the weather, obviously, but there's things in place that keep it fair to do business with each other. And our delivery date was, let's say it was Tuesday. And because of the plant or the warehouse shutting down because of the weather, they had to push our driver back 24 to 48 hours and would not pay a full.
You want to talk about this in the podcast?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So our client didn't want to pay the full charge of the layover charge. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is that there's folks out there that are dealing with, we have limited margin on these loads because we're trying to be cost competitive and win the freight. And when something like that happens, I think it's just as much our responsibility as it is our client's responsibility to make sure we have the rules of engagement in line. So I'm saying that it's something that we didn't think about, but we probably should have had a discussion to say, hey,
well, it's definitely something that's going to be added to kind of, I bring my portfolio with me into those meetings.
Yeah.
And it's something that has to be added to the list of questions.
Yeah.
What's your tonu?
Yeah. Layover.
What's your layover? Is that different?
Yeah. So the tonu is a truck order not used. So that's when the driver shows up and the freight's not ready or they can't load him.
Okay.
So you ordered a truck, but you can't use me. So you have to pay me a minimum fee for showing up.
Okay.
And the layover charge is that you're extending the delivery date. So you're pushing me back from.
And then the other one is there's layover, tonu.
There's a lot of accessorials.
No, but there's like the big when the driver sits there for more than 2 hours.
Oh, detention.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep. So, and those are things that, we had more of an introductory call with this specific customer. We really like working with them, and this isn't to say anything bad about them. They have a way of doing business. It's more our fault.
Yeah, it's really our fault for not asking the questions because, and that being my first ever real sit down with a customer.
Yeah,
we did a Teams or Zoom call or something like that. And I had questions I wanted to ask, and we asked a lot of questions, but I think there's key ones that we missed out on, and those accessorials being a big piece of that.
Yeah,
like because until the issues popped up, we didn't even know what they paid.
Yeah.
So and then what are their conditions of payment? I mean, because it's an act of God, it's weather. They're only going to pay half, but we're still paying our carrier the full amount.
Oh yeah.
And our margin on that whole shipment
is gone.
Well, it was gone. I mean, it was already gone.
Yeah.
It's just kind of the way that worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I think why I'm bringing it up is that, when we get in situations with new customers, we go through this brokerage agreement, and you sign off on it. You show them the insurance coverage you have. Does it meet all the requirements? Do they need to be a certificate holder? All those things are kind of walked through first. And I think we rush into bringing that new customer on, and we certainly did.
Well, yeah, I mean, we want new customers.
Yeah, so we're thinking that everybody's doing industry standard as far as the layover and the tonu and all that. But you don't know until you ask and make sure that there's, rules of engagement. Just like us as a sales team, this is how we proceed with each other. This is how we get new business and how we work with each other team. It's also the same way with your customers. I mean, you need to let them know and find out, hey, we are expecting this.
It's with people, you can't assume anything.
Yeah.
And we made assumptions that were wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of just asking the question.
So that's just kind of a check call for anybody listening here in the brokerage side. If you're in the game of bringing on new customers and bringing on new business, don't move too fast, slow down, make sure that all of your expectations are being asked and confirmed with the new customers that you're bringing on. So that's why I wanted to bring that up. That was something we found out today.
Yeah. Which sucks. I mean, think after layover, we're probably losing $50 on the thing altogether.
Yeah, and for those folks that are saying, well, man, so why would you even move that? Well, it's too late because we've got to.
I mean, the driver just drove, 1,200 miles, and he's there. And the weather, although we knew there was going to be some weather, we didn't know to what extent. So
yeah, they shut down the state almost. So, but yeah, we want to move forward amicably with this customer. We want to make it right with the driver that took the load for us, and we're going to learn from it. But for people that think that we don't, like, why would you do that, and how can you
why is it okay to lose?
And it's just basically every account, and in our business as the brokerage side, we just basic a T account. I mean, you have debits and credits, and you may lose $50 on this customer, but you make $100 on the next one, so it balances out, and then you're in the black on the overall.
Yep.
So that's the game that we play every day. It's accounting, it's sales, it's operations, it's political science.
I think the finance major, I think that piece for me helps out the most, because I can think about the behind the scenes stuff. So and coming from being a finance manager in the car business, I'm making those calculations in my head. Like when today the two that we picked up from that same customer, that was you thought I wasn't gonna get a.
Yeah, you asked for the fair price, and I the way it was positioned to us is that we were gonna have to come extra aggressive, in my opinion, to get it.
Yeah.
You made the extra ask and say, no, I'm gonna ask for what's right.
Yeah.
And we got what was right.
Well, it's mainly because I know that we've been not profitable on this customer yet.
Yeah.
It's kind of like our relationship with the customer hasn't been built. Our value isn't there.
Yeah.
So we can't value sell like we're fantastic. We don't fall off of loads. We don't do this. We don't do that. That's all stuff that everybody says. So we have to prove it.
Yeah.
And the only way to be able to prove it is to move shipments for the customer.
Yeah.
So until we do that, there's nothing to prove. There's no value built. But will this customer or another customer in the future choose us over somebody else that might be a little bit less expensive because we're reliable and because we always come through, because my line of communication is better than any of the other people they work with? That's the hope, right?
Yeah.
Is that
we're creating a track record.
Yeah, you got to create a track record. Can't just go off of what I tell you, right?
Yeah.
So, because that's exactly what everybody else is saying. So,
yep. So I had some things I wanted to. I don't like hearing myself talk, but there are things that as this podcast is moving forward, I really think that there's things that are important for salespeople to understand, and that we find ourselves getting caught up in. And this week was this week, right? This week was the week that we were really busy, and we had the great Monday, and Tuesday was pretty good too, and Wednesday was good. But so, Josh is trying to build his customer base, so that takes a lot of phone calls outbound, trying to meet people over the phone. And with one person down in our carrier sales side and a plethora of new business to quote, we have the same amount of quote volume, and now we've got new business that we're quoting to actually win and then move. There was a tremendous amount of work to cover on Monday, thankfully. So calls weren't there. And I think it was yesterday.
You're saying outbound calls, my calls.
Yeah, the outbound call volume and the connections were much lower than what you normally put up because you were balancing between working carriers. I mean, you're trying to find some carriers in a couple of tight areas.
I mean, Monday I was calling out with carrier sales. I was calling. Hey, have you called this one yet? And kind of hopping back and forth.
Yeah, and also you were you're offering rates. You were setting appointments. I mean, you were setting appointments and pickup appointments and delivery appointments for another customer. So this is just an all-in game. And what I thought what you said, but what I guess what I maybe have heard was you can't do two things at once.
Yeah,
right?
we talked about that. I think maybe it was yesterday when we were leaving.
Yeah,
That it's I stole it from a book, and I don't remember which one,
it's okay.
but
What did you steal?
that's essentially that people like to say that they're multitaskers, they can
Yeah,
do multiple things at once, but the truth is that the way the human brain is, it's a one-track mind.
yeah,
And sure, you can do a few things at once, but you always think that you're doing better on all of them than
yeah,
other people think you are.
yeah,
So what the reality is. The
yeah,
reality is you're spreading yourself too thin. You're not actually getting anything done. And if you would have just focused on one project at a time,
yeah.
you would have finished it much more quickly. So
So the visual I always put in my head is that um, uh, basically a warrior with a shield pushing the enemy away, and then with the sword trying to kill the enemy at the same time.
mhm.
And you're going to do that until you die, and it usually ends up that way because of what you just said. You can't do more than one thing at 100%. And that's when I started taking some notes and wanted to share some things. I don't want to get away from the microphone here, so excuse me. But
He won't wear his glasses for the video when he
no, I don't
should.
mess with it. I should though. But so I watched this thing. There was a guy that worked for me a few years back, and he was becoming a director of sales, and he was going to train the existing group of salespeople. That was part of his training and development. And he came in, he wanted to teach people, he wanted to teach the people about a certain thing that he found to be absolutely true. And I said, I don't care what it is, as long as it's appropriate. Just, you don't even clear with me, let's just go for it.
Mhm.
And he came in with a whole, a 5-minute video of Tom Brady. And he had, Tom Brady had his family there, the family at the time, his wife at the time, and his children. And they all interviewed the entire family, the people that did the video. And basically the gist of it was that he is okay, and he understands the fact that he cannot be a good father and a good husband, that he's going to be a great football player for 9 months out of the year. And the other 3 months of the year while he's training, he'll be 25% a good father, and 25% a good husband, and 75% a good training football player.
Yeah, no, I identify with that a lot, mainly from the military.
Yeah.
I mean, they say the best soldier is single, no family, orphans, all that,
Mm-hmm.
is because you have no connection. You're not missing home. You're just focused on the task at hand.
Yep.
And all of those other things are distractions from what the government's paying you to do.
Yeah.
So, I with that piece a lot, and then we always talk about personally that I just suck at managing work, school, life.
Well, it's too much.
Yeah,
It's
it's
too
just-
much. And I think the people that make the best attempt are people that can compartmentalize their life and say, okay, from this time to this time, I'm 100% this. But it rolls over, it gets messy, and you slip up. And I think everybody has to be understanding of that when you've got somebody like yourself that's improving their lives. They're trying to be a good husband. They're trying to be a good business owner because you own the horse farm. You and your wife, you're trying to be a good business leader here in both sales and the developing team. You're trying to be a good student because you're trying to finish strong from all the things that you've done. And you're trying to be a good friend and family member, all that kind of stuff. It's just too much. But to go back to the Tom Brady situation, so, everybody knows he got divorced, and people scratch their heads or not. I mean, they were literally in an understanding between him and his wife that I'm not going to be a great husband to you. So what I saw that relationship broke up, it was her saying, no, man, you've not been a good husband for how many years now, and not a good father for how many years now. You said you were going to be that starting today or starting last month, and now you're changing your mind.
Yeah, I know nothing about his life.
Yeah, sorry about
I
that.
mean, I'm
so
not
you're
a-
not a big sports guy.
Yeah, I'm not a big sports guy, but
yeah, so it kind of came up out of the blue. Everybody thought it was infidelity, and it was just basically the simple fact that he had too much about the Tom Brady situation. But I thought it was just amazing that she had the strength to say, no, man, I gave you the support. You pushed it too much, and now I'm going to do what's right for myself, and that's start living for myself since you're living for yourself. Maybe not the best reason, not answer, but I understand her point and why that happened.
I mean, they burned their relationship candle from both ends
Yeah.
for too long. I mean, that's all that is. I mean, like my wife and I, we weren't married yet, but high school sweethearts went to the military. She stayed here in Ohio, went to college, and I was stationed down in Georgia, hopping back and forth over the pond. But we hit the point at 5 years where it was, hey, we got to make a change because, 5 years gone, it's just seeing each other twice a year just doesn't cut it.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
So, and maybe 3 or 4 times, because we got to a point when she had lulls in school. She'd come down and visit me because I couldn't go back home.
If you're not seeing each other at least once a month, that's a problem.
Yeah,
I mean, it was obviously it was a reason why you
definitely
couldn't do
less
that,
than once a month.
That's a challenge, extreme
but
challenge.
No, we definitely hit the point where it was like the change has to be made.
Yeah.
And kind of time to focus on us.
Yeah.
And I kind of had my fun to go, play soldier in the woods or whatever.
And maybe you don't get through that unless you had that type of understanding person to say, yeah, I still love you. I'm going to be over here. You can do you with the Army because it's important. And we'll see how this is going to progress. But, it worked out where things got to be where it needed to be and got to be where you wanted it to be when you got back.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is we talk about my military career as me getting to do my thing. And then I got back and I told her, I was like, I got to go have my fun.
Yeah.
Like, now, like, what do you want?
Yeah.
And that's when, the farm and everything came around, and coming out of the military, there was no money for a farm. But I just found a way to give her chance, her time to enjoy.
That's a big thing. That's a big thing.
Come to find out, I enjoy it too. So
yeah,
I enjoy having a property and getting to go ride golf carts around the fields or whatever. So
yeah, fun stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it's perfect because it's going into this next thing that I want to talk about, and it's about the number one thing in succeeding, especially in sales or business, is that really in anything is that you've got to be present. Your relationship may have been challenging at times, if not all the time, because of the lack of presence, right? I mean, you guys work physically, and
that's very vague. So just saying presence, Are you talking physically, emotionally, all of the above?
So,
I mean, what are you diving into?
So when it's not just physically being present, but it's being all in on the situation that you're at least 50% a part of. So when we had that meeting on Monday of this week, with the new client, where my head has got to be trained to go to, and it wasn't there 100%, is it's got to be glued in on the two gentlemen that we talked to. And usually when I'm 100% present, I've already done some research on them individually. I want to find out whatever I can through Facebook, if they allow that for public viewing, on their LinkedIn. I want to find out what their interests are so I can kind of start understanding what kind of people they are.
Mm-hmm.
And then I base my business questions based on what I think of their personality, based on the experience I've had with people like that, with those types of interests. And it helps me get into a better conversation that's more one-on-one, that assures them that.
You think that piece could like pigeonhole you though?
I don't care. I don't care if it does.
Like,
because
you're not like where I did very basic research. I knew a little bit about the company.
Mm-hmm.
I went into it pretty open-minded.
Yeah.
But had questions in mind that I wanted to ask.
Sure.
And based on the interactions, because when we went into having this meeting, we already had 2 shipments that we had been tendered to move for them. So it's not like we were going into this pre-business to kind of set the ground rules. We had already started doing business, and we're like, hey, let's sit down, let's go over it all, and kind of
let's get to know each other.
Yeah, get to know each other. Yeah. So I went into it knowing the little bit of communication I had, and just kind of with my questions.
Yeah,
I just didn't write down all the questions I should have been asking.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want to pigeonhole the conversation or who I thought they were and limit getting the questions I had answered.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
well, I'm not telling them who they are in that interview or that meeting.
But can't your questions guide somebody to who you're painting them to be?
What those questions are going to be are that, hey, let's say Jerry. Hey Jerry, I'm checking you out up on social media. It looks like you really like the band this, or you really like Arizona State, football team. Talk to me about that. My daughter lives out in Arizona.
Have you ever done that before?
Yeah. Yeah.
See, I would find that weird if you did it to me.
Yeah, but you'll remember it. You'll remember it.
I do.
You're going to make a decision, but that's okay, because if I talk to 5 people that way, what is going to let them? Everybody wants to have an exclusive relationship. Everybody wants to be exclusive. They want to feel like they're set apart. They want to feel special.
Okay, so let me flip that to like the customer I was talking to today. Different customer.
Yep.
That I've done quite a bit of business. I've done actually more for that customer I talked to today than the customer you're talking about.
Yeah.
Where our professional relationship got to the point where, hey, I'm not going to be at work tomorrow. It's my birthday.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, happy birthday. Hey, if you ever my birthday was last weekend. If you get a chance, there's this awesome cake place where you can buy, these tiny little cakes and they're delicious.
Yeah.
If you get a chance, you should check it out.
Yeah.
That's a rapport relationship that's natural, where I feel like when you're researching somebody and asking them, like researching them personally through the resources that are readily available.
Yeah.
And asking too pinpointed of questions that it comes across wrong.
I'm not sure, I don't agree with that. And the reason why I don't is that you're trying to set yourself apart. You're trying to make an impact of, I'm interested in you and your business.
Okay.
And I think many times when we take a look at the superficial, and we do this when we're rushed and we've got multiple meetings, and we try to get to know basic knowledge, so at least we have some talking points. If it gets to there, we're going to be asking questions, but it's the same grind these people are in all the time.
Well, I guess instead of asking, hey, you're an Ohio State fan, what did you think about blah, blah, blah?
Mm-hmm.
You're like, hey, I don't know if you're a football fan. Did you watch that game?
The whole
so
purpose.
There's a whole different. It's like a different.
Yeah, but
context.
I don't want to. I think the Arizona State thing threw it off. What I'm trying to do is find something that they feel strongly about in any way I can, and bring that into the conversation, saying that I'm interested in getting to know you. That was very interesting to me.
Okay, I guess I was confused. Maybe I was nitpicking a little too much.
Yeah.
Because thought you were giving a specific, like, this is exactly how I would have the conversation. I mean, you were just giving like a general.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean,
because I guess that's where the disconnect was, because I would never go very specific on something. I would generalize it to carry the conversation forward. So yes, we both agree on that. Actually, it's not. There's no disagreement. We just wasted.
I think the most important part is that you're letting that person know that, yeah, I was wanting to know more about you, so I checked you out as best I can. This is kind of what I found out. That was interesting. Is that accurate? And it takes the conversation and it kind of throws them off a bit. So where the fear in a lot of folks is that I don't want to take the conversation in a weird direction. Yeah, you do. You totally do.
Oh, yeah. We've talked about always trying to be different and finding your own piece.
And I don't mean juggling different. And I don't mean, axe throwing different. I mean, well, that person asked me a question I've never had been asked before. I'll never forget that. But after that little dust settles, they're going to feel like, well, man, he checked me out. He wanted to know about me. I guess that's cool. Or it's really weird and I want to talk to that person again. Either way, it's the fastest way to know.
Yeah.
Right. So, okay, cool.
Which I'm big on the fastest way to find out.
I mean, the biggest detriment to what we do, I don't want to go down this path too far, but it is the maybe, right? It's what that was built around, is that I'd rather hear you say you don't want to work with me right now so I can move on to another thing and utilize my time best, instead of chasing something that there's no interest level into. There's no emotion. I mean, what we're trying to do is spark the emotion in a buyer. We're trying to show a vulnerable point of view from ourselves to say, you're going to get honesty from me. It's going to be different from what you already had. And in many ways it may not be, but your attempt is going to be very unique. It's going to be very personable. It's going to be transparent.
Well, the vulnerability is not to just be vulnerable, but it's to build confidence
and rapport
and trust.
Yeah.
So it's not like when
I was 8, I did that. It's not about that.
It's about building the rapport and trust through being I like transparency better for it too. Just, hey, these are my questions. Like, these are questions I need answered, because it saves us a lot of time.
And I think about the bundt cake thing, and you shared part of your life with that person.
Yes.
And you made that little back and forth transfer of information to be very normalized. So it was.
It's like if we were sitting right here and you're like,
oh my gosh, yeah, my wife and I, we love that place, and we got the little sample ones. If you try that, oh no, you've got to try that. Those are so awesome.
And that's where I was.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't I don't know, like being solicited. I wasn't soliciting her.
Yeah, right.
In the conversation.
No.
I was just.
You're being transparent and honest about how you felt.
I was being genuine. Yeah. Where now I kind of feel gimmicky talking about the conversation, but that wasn't the intention. It's just a really good example.
Yeah, and I think that's okay because it comes out.
Some people do it as a gimmick, like pretending to care.
Yeah,
Where I was actually like, oh, cool, tomorrow's Groundhog's Day and it's your birthday.
Yeah.
Like,
and
it was me, so like I was kind of teetering on the edge of like, so are you going to tell me if there's more winter or if summer's coming sooner?
Yeah.
But like that's a little too far. Like, but that's just my personality coming through in an email where, like, I work all day. If you don't have any business right now for me to do, like, I'm still going to respond to your email. So hey, like, what's going on?
Right.
So.
You're humanizing the relationship.
Yeah.
It's not transactional. It's not just business. It's, I'm a human.
Yep.
I've got feelings over here.
Which this is the same customer that when they had an issue, we helped them out.
They had a same day.
Yeah, the same day situation, not our fault, but we were able to help them out. I mean, those kind of things, we're just people, and as a person I wanted to help out, even if we didn't make any money on it. I want to be there to help, at least.
Yep.
So if we break even, but we saved your day, like, I'll do it every time.
That's really where we're at in your book of business right now. Is that it's going to be tight right now as far as margin, but we're going to cover every load. We're going to stand by the rate. We're going to pay our drivers and our carriers what we said we were going to pay them. If we take hits, that's okay. In the future, in the next month, we'll make up for it. Yeah. So that's kind of to help explain where we're at. So so the big thing was. As far as being present, it's really about being a sponge to everything that person is saying and truly being interested in what they have to say. I mean, it takes a lot to do that. And if it takes too much for you to do that, I don't know if sales is the right thing, because I think that.
Well, it's active listening.
Active listening, but much more than that to me. Like, this Jerry, I mean, I've got to truly care about working with this person, getting to know that person to the point where I'm comfortable with them and they're comfortable with me.
I don't think this is a teaching thing. You can't teach this. Like, that piece of it. You can't teach.
You can't teach it, but you can make people aware of it. You can make people aware of the fact that.
But usually the ones you're making aware of it, like if you were to tell me about this and I'd never heard about it, I'm the kind of person that when I talk to somebody else and I'm having a conversation, I'm asking genuine questions because I am a sponge. If I don't know it, I Google it. Like, I just want to know.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just natural. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Being present. Yeah. That's what I do.
Yeah.
And that's why I've had a level of success. And that's why, but I don't know that there's a person that it's like, hey man, you got to be more present. You got to listen. You got to care more. You got to care more about your customer that you're talking to.
Well, you're either going to do it or you're not. You're either going to
How do you care more if you're a person that doesn't care?
Yeah. Well, that's not going to work out for you, which is kind of what I said, like, then sales may not be for you if you can't be truly present. Or
this kind of sales
this
isn't
kind
free,
of
where this emotion, transparency, this side of it, maybe you are a meat grinder, wait for the call to come in guy.
Yeah.
Which they have their own place in the sales world.
Yeah. There's a need for that. But as far as trying to conjure business out of thin air, you need to know who you're working with, which kind of starts with the failure of ours. So we didn't ask business questions because we were trying to get to know them as people.
Yeah, we did. We learned a lot about them as people.
Yeah.
But not enough as on the business side.
And sometimes those things happen. But if both parties can walk away from a meeting, a video call, even a conference call, having said, I know who those people are, because I knew who they were.
I mean, we walked out of that meeting and we turned to each other and we were like, "Oh, they're pretty cool."
Yeah, we can do business with those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was our intent, to make sure that they know who we were and how we were going to move forward as far as a relationship in business. This is what you got.
Yeah.
So video calls were important.
I mean, I know it was successful because I'm pretty sure they laughed at me at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like when I forgot the question I was going to ask.
Well, it was a video call, so that does help.
Yeah.
They
Funny
can
looking.
see you. Yeah. I didn't say that.
You meant it.
So there's a bunch of things on here. I don't want it to be a kind of a seminar.
Did you share this with me?
No. I just wrote this down when it was cleaning the house and I was thinking about this.
So that was over the weekend.
Yeah.
Or was this yesterday?
No, this was a couple of days ago at least.
So you could have shared it with me in a couple
I
of days.
could have.
So
I was just kind of working through them.
So you're just shooting from the hip, catching me by surprise.
Yeah, but it kind of it rolls into some things we talked about in the past. Some things don't make as much sense now. But to go back, the last meeting on the last podcast we had about the metric
last
stuff.
episode we talked about metrics and numbers and.
Yeah, I wanted to add, you have to not only meet the metrics or the data points, but you have to do it in a way that you define ultimate success. So if you're running an organization or you're part of a team that's running an organization, the data points that you're measuring, you have to say, this is how we're going to win. And these are the lead measurements that lead to the lag measurements that we know are winning, right? Now, it's simple for sales and business development because it's
you want to break that
margin.
down? I think we need to unpack that a little bit.
Okay.
Because
so the up on the board, we've talked about this before.
I mean, dumb it down for me.
Yeah. So we talked about last week, so that's why I kind of glossed over it. When we talked about, and I don't want to hammer this in, it was so boring last podcast.
Yeah, I thought it was too.
No, is that we talked about when we sit the new salesperson in their seat and we say, okay, here's your list of leads. We need revenue. We need margin. Make sure that the loads that we're covering for your customers and new customers are going to make us money.
Yeah.
Good luck.
And that's usually the end of the conversation.
For the most part, you'll have training. You'll see the reports. You'll be able to grab the information and how you're doing. I mean, all that stuff may be available to you, but at the end of the day, you have a lead list, and are you winning or not is based off of what loads you move for them. So that's total measurement based off of lag, right? We said, no, that's not how we're going to do it.
Well, I mean, when we first put the whiteboard up with everything on it, one of the first questions we were asked was, well, why isn't revenue on the board?
Yeah. Yeah.
And because that's not
because it
something
doesn't matter right now.
Yeah, nobody cares about revenue.
It does not matter right now.
If we're not doing the right foundational things, like hitting the number of calls, making the certain number of connections.
Which is it. So those are the measurements that
That's what's important to me.
And I'm saying that when I say we, I mean, as a leader, if I come to an organization, I have to say, okay, I've got a game plan, I've got a strategy, and I know it works, and I've been through it working. I just need the right people to help me execute it.
Yep.
And then when you get those good people and right people in, then they take that idea and say, oh, well, no crap, right?
Yeah.
But have you thought about this, boss? And the boss goes, that's a great idea. And now you've got a partner, right?
Yeah, I guess.
And now you're working together to get more detailed, and you have somebody trying it and succeeding or failing, but you're learning as a team.
Yeah.
But it's measurements that you're deciding on the group. The group's deciding their measurements that make best sense for them. So the whole point of what I'm saying here is that the owner can't come in and say, we're measuring this and this and this.
Well, no, you are.
Yeah, great. And I know that that's got to make sense to you. But what we do every day and how we reward people and how we say, congrats and the kudos and all that stuff has to come from something that we can attain every day and that's measurable and that everybody's on the same page with. So
yeah.
What it was going to was, to be a great leader, success can't be dictated by the ownership or the stakeholders. They're they're giving you the business measurements. You have to not only meet those metric data points, but do it in a way that you define ultimate success, and it better match the definition that your employees have about the success, or you'll be on the Titanic by yourself, and the hero dies in this one too. So it's really about you're not paying attention to me. You're going to go to your phone. It's really about the team. Not only does the measurements that you're tracking have to make sense to your entire team, but they have to be fully on board, and they're going to also be offering other data points that make even more additional sense to the team or the individuals on the team. And that's what you grow your metric tracking with. And I think I want to just add that because although we talked about the metric tracking that we do and that it's more lead and not lag, the biggest challenge is that you got to find teammates that work for you, work with you, work underneath you, or work above you that are all on the same page and it makes sense for them. And it's just much more solidifies the forward progress. And all the other things, the lag measurements will always be there. The lead measurements are what you define that get you there. So as long as you're tracking progress on the lead, I got you. Yeah, revenue and margin. I understand.
Yep.
Now, it's up to me to go back to our owner and say, well, we're not on a 90-day plan. We're on a 120-day plan.
Yeah.
And this is why. Okay. Well, I can't afford a 120-day plan. Okay, great. Right?
Yeah.
So that's where I go back and forth, and this didn't happen, but I'm saying that's where you're working with the stakeholders, the ownership. That's what executive leadership is about is, here's the reality. Can you take that? No, we can't. We're not going to invest anymore. We're fine. Everything's cool. And then you're communicating that honestly, openly, transparently to the team, and you're either adjusting the metrics to speed up, you're adding teammates to speed up the timeline. I mean, all of it is fixable. It's all workable, but the team creates the true metrics that lead to the success. That's what I wanted to get to on that.
Okay.
And that's all I had on that. Now, I did want to add a new section to the podcast, and we talked about you owning a horse farm with your wife.
Yep.
And so I want us to kind of bring in some goofy stats or goofy trivia to say, okay, is it horse crap, meaning lies, or is it fertilizer, meaning the truth? That's kind of what I wanted to do.
Okay.
And I want to start with one question. I've got two backup questions, but I don't know why, but I started watching The Wolf of Wall Street. And there's parts in that movie that I absolutely love, but there's so much stuff that's really bad. Having daughters, being a Christian man, some of it's just like over the top.
Yep.
And so I tend either to stop watching it or fast forward it through some pretty shady parts. But
I like all of that. Yeah.
Degenerate.
Yep.
But the story of, I look at a brokerage starting out and I take a look at a Jordan Belfort that was getting his Series 7, whatever, his SEC licenses, whatever, to ability to trade. And then he starts on the day of the market crash in 87. I believe it was 87. Huge crash. And he was basically out of a job. They did not need stockbrokers at that brokerage house. I think the brokerage house went down. And he was, okay, now what do I do? And the tenacity that he had and the resilience he had to try to find a way to make a living and be the success he thought he was going to be, that's amazing. To me, that's amazing. But it's really a startup brokerage, trading pink stocks, right? Or pink slips, whatever you want to call pink stocks. In the classified ads of adult magazines is where the stocks were being advertised at that point. And in bad small newspapers in different cities of the country, they were cold calling people and trying to sell stock that no one knew of. And they were telling a story about what the stock is, what it's going to be. And I just thought it's just an amazing story. That's why I took a chance of watching it. But the real question, the horse crap or fertilizer, is The Wolf of Wall Street the only movie? Or I'm sorry, The Wolf of Wall Street is the only movie about Jordan Belfort's life.
I wouldn't know. I'm not.
You have to choose.
Yeah.
You have to say,
I mean,
is it true, or what you're saying that The Wolf of Wall Street is the only movie about Jordan Belfort? Is that true or false, or is that horse crap or fertilizer?
I'm gonna go with
Horse crap being untrue.
That it is the only movie? Horse crap.
Okay. And you are right. Can you tell me the other movie that mirrors the story of Jordan Belfort but isn't advertised to do so?
Is it Boiler Room?
It is Boiler Room.
Okay.
It is absolutely Boiler Room. Yep. I didn't realize that until I watched a documentary.
What documentary?
It was actually it wasn't a documentary. It was American Greed.
Oh, American Greed?
Yeah, and they walked through his story piece by piece. And
did they come out flat and say that Boiler Room was, or is this just kind of an assumption that it's about?
No, they did, but they really walked through the pieces that mirrored Boiler Room even more so than.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It's crazy.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't actually know that, but it was a very leading question because you don't ask that question unless the answer is what you wouldn't expect.
True.
So
there's some more of that. I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying that this is just another.
All right. Well, let's do 3. So we got 2 more. You said.
And you know what? Just for
put your glasses on. Be a good old man.
Good. Horse crap or fertilizer.
Okay.
Your hair and nails grow after you die.
They do.
Inaccurate. That's horse crap.
That's
horse crap.
No, it's not.
It is horse crap. And here's why. Your skin and your bone deteriorate and shrink.
So it makes it
decay,
so it makes it look like
appears.
Okay.
That's horse crap.
That's another tricky one.
That was the only one
No, you said you had 3.
I said I had a couple other ones, but I wrote down the Wolf of Wall Street one. I don't have another one without putting some more dead space on this podcast.
I'm the one that edits it anyway. So.
Yeah, so that's good. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
So as we go into the 3rd month for you, well.
Yeah, we'll call it the 3rd month.
Going into the 3rd month.
I'd say my first month didn't count because it was mostly training and learning and building the foundation. The second month,
timeline-wise,
yeah,
it's going into your 3rd month. What do you think?
What do I think about what?
How do you feel about what you've accomplished so far? How do you feel about the possibilities?
That's a good question and a bad question. I'm the kind of person that's always pushing myself. So to say that I'm happy with how the first couple months went, like from an outside perspective, if I wasn't me looking in, I'd be like, oh wow, yeah, that's pretty decent. I mean, I don't know all the history. I think one of the people here said that I've done a couple things that haven't been done here in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And with levels of success that they haven't seen.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate, kind of the transparency on that or the opinion.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm not. I wish I could have done more. I wish my first month I had, 30 truckloads and 20 LTL, where I actually ended at 13 truckloads and 2 LTL. So, that's just my expectations. But am I beating myself up for not hitting the numbers I wanted to hit? No. But once I hit those numbers, now I have to reassess and say, okay, well, now I want to hit 100 truckloads and 50, whatever that.
Yeah.
It's a constantly moving and evolving want.
Yeah.
But I think what I needed in January, or what I needed in the first 90 days, but it's really what I needed in January. My second month was to move my first full truckload, move an LTL, get some repetition on it this is what it's really about.
Mm-hmm.
And understand where I can scale and how this can grow, and what areas that I need to improve, what areas our whole system might need to improve for growth. If I would have gotten or won 100 truckloads, I don't know that I would think that we'd be able to cover it all. But if we did scale that fast, that means I brought on at the rate we're at, I brought on triple the customers I brought on. So I brought on 36 customers in a month. That's a lot of growth. And then we lost a guy halfway through the month.
Yeah.
So it's happening the way it should happen. I think slow and steady, kind of building up. Some people might think bringing on 6 or 7 customers in 1 month is a lot. But it was manageable for us in the way that we did our quoting, and the ones, we won the ones we wanted to, and kind of worked the process the right way.
Yeah.
So I think it's going well. There's definitely areas that I have that I want to improve that bumps up some of these lead measures.
Yeah.
But I mean, what do you think?
And then, well, yeah, I'll tell you that. But I mean, as far as the possibilities part of it, how are you feeling about that?
Possibilities? Well, I think that it's like all great commission sales jobs. It's whatever I make it. I mean, usually, or what I've hit is that I hit a point where I'm no longer, like, all my commissions might be uncapped.
Yep.
But my leadership doesn't have me uncapped.
Yep.
There's some level of friction or disagreement in how do we continue to scale from here?
Yeah.
Or I want to continue scaling because I want to make more, I want to do more, I want to become more, but there's no foundation for that. So, I mean, here and kind of the way it works is if I want to continue scaling and keep going, we just have to keep adding other people.
Yeah, and I want to. So my response to like how things are going is that I think December there was never a concern about you. It was a concern about, man, the industry just kind of shut down for the month.
Yeah,
and that freaked me out a bit. And it was already in the news and all that stuff as I was feeling that way. But when January came up, it was just, wow, people were waking up faster than I thought they were going to. I thought we'd have to wait till the middle of the month before we got, the conversations you had in the first week of the first month of the year. But I'm thankful that it scaled the way it did, that you didn't have 30 customers come on, but maybe a dozen or close to it, and did it over a 3-week period, because you never would have gotten to know the customers the way you have. And you never would have gotten to be able to step into an opportunity like somebody, I can't really talk right now. I'm just right in between a big emergency right now. And then you had the time and the ability and the effort to say, well, what can I help with?
Yeah.
We had the capacity to help them out on that same day. And I think you don't make the same impact if you're swamped with all this opportunity where I end up quoting and trying to cover things. You'd end up you'd be pissing people more off than you would be making them happy.
Yeah.
So I think that it scaled the way it needed to perfectly. I think that you're about 3 customers like the one we just had the conference call with.
Yep.
3 customers away from getting to your break-even point.
Yep. Where I start paying for myself.
Yep. And 1 RFP away from being able to buy a new car. Well, you've got enough money.
Oh, I don't.
But no, I think this month of January has been tremendous. We need to make February the same, if not a little bit better even.
No, it should definitely be better.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about the customers I brought on and the shipments that I moved. Once again, 95% of that was in the last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So really, and I mean, February is a short month. It's only 28 days. But we're going to get a good gauge for what the growth is.
Quarter.
Yeah, what the next quarter is going to look like.
Yeah.
And then even then, we already know that as long as our on times and everything like that stays the way it is,
yep,
we're going to have even more opportunity once the new quarter hits.
Yeah.
So it's,
and these new customers are kind of in their slower period right now, which is kind of what you're leading.
which I mean, most people. I mean, if you're already in transportation, you know that
January, February, a little.
Yeah, the new year is kind of we're trying to clean up last year. We're trying to
figure out what we're going to do this year.
Yep.
If they didn't do it already, but no. So I'm very very thankful that of the month that January gave us, and I'm really thankful for you being here. I'm thankful for guys like Keith that were a part of this thing for years. that he's making a career change to do something more of what his passion's for.
Oh no, definitely. I mean, he's following, I think, his dreams, as cliche. I mean,
Yeah.
but that's what he's doing. I mean, that's what I did when I switched careers to come here. Is
Yeah.
I'm following the path that I think is actually going to take me to where I'm going to be happy.
Yeah.
But
he was just a big part of this. So I mean, sad to see him go. Thankful that he's on a path that fits more of what he's looking for out of life. Really happy about the team that remains, the way they've stepped up, the people that they are. Really excited about the people that we've been talking to for the new open roles, and excited about what this next, the remaining part of this quarter is going to unfold, and what the second quarter is going to look like. So, so thank you on that, and
thank you. I appreciate it.
We're ready to close this one out if you are.
Yeah. No, it sounds good.
Any parting words?
No, thanks for listening. It means a lot. I know that we're really learning how to do this. So we're learning how to be podcasters. It's not something I ever thought I would actually do.
No. And many do it much better, but we want to offer a voice, or at least
their production quality might be better. Their microphones, their voices, they might look nicer than us. But I think that we do offer a unique perspective into the sales.
We hope so.
And,
we're trying, everybody. So bear with us and feed us information. We want everybody that's listening to be, or have the opportunity to be a part of this thing. Either read what you've stated as far as a question, any feedback you want to give us, we can share that too. If you want to be a part of this, we can Zoom call you in. We can invite you to the actual organization that we're at. We want industry experts and leaders, and we want people that are starting out in the game to give their points of view.
Yep. So like in the next couple episodes, we'll start having some guests on, and we'll kind of go from there, and depending on feedback.
Stop or go.
Yep. Sounds good.
Thank you, everybody.
Yep. We'll catch you next time.